Hey everyone, it's Michael Fair from BIT here. Welcome to our latest episode of Talking with Tech Leaders with Andy McMahon, Head of ML Ops at NatWest Group. Andy is a data scientist and machine learning engineer with lots and lots of experience. He has a book on Amazon called Machine Learning Engineering with Python, which he's now looking to do a second edition on. We talk around his 10 years in academia. We talk around his time at NatWest Group, ML Ops project he's been working on, how to ensure security and privacy. We also talk about modular application design. Chat GPT managed to sneak its way in there as well. So I hope you enjoy the podcast as much as I enjoyed recording it. Thanks. So welcome Andy to Talking with Tech Leaders. Everyone, I'm joined today with Andy McMahon, Head of ML Ops at NatWest Group. How are you doing, Andy? You well?
I'm very well, thank you.
So, like with all guests on Talking with Tech Leaders, we start with academia. If I am correct, you spent about 10 years, spent some time at University of Glasgow. We did a Master's in Theoretical Physics. You did a Master's of Science as well at Imperial College in London, which is Theory and Simulation of Materials. And then you got your PhD at Imperial College London as well in Physics. That is so impressive.
Well, impressive I stuck it out that long. I never had the wherewithal to escape.
Yeah, totally. Did you enjoy the studying, the learning? Was it kind of a natural passion for you to kind of follow in physics?
Yeah, I think for me, I've always loved working out how things work. And I think really into sci-fi when I was younger. So like Star Trek was a massive thing for me. And then through school, I never really knew what I wanted to do specifically. I just liked learning and reading and just doing tons of stuff. And it was weird. It was quite a late thing for me. I wasn't like a prodigious child. Like I remember reading sort of my first novel properly at like 14 or something. So it wasn't like, I was proper nerdy all the way through. It just kicked off then, and I just loved learning about everything. So that's kicked off the whole science bug. Loved science at school. I got my results in secondary school. So I did like my 5th year, like we do in Scotland, your HIELTS. And I thought I was going to do a 6th year at school. My dad was like, why are you going to go back? I just want to go now. So I got a place through clearing. So there I was, like a snotty-nosed 16-year-old enrolling in Glasgow Uni to do maths and physics. Yeah, and I just kind of went from there. So I absolutely loved it. All the way through undergrad, I thought I wanted to be a professor. I thought that was my thing. I did the whole summer internship and research labs thing. I went to Hamburg for a couple of months, worked at DAISY, which is big particle physics lab in Germany. Just obsessed with that. So I thought I was going to stay in academia forever. Yeah. Hence the PhD. But then through the PhD, the program I was on and Imperial College generally were very good at making you consider non-academic career paths. So they really got you to speak to companies. They got you to think about applications in the real world. And I just kind of started feeling like I don't have the sort of brain that works well at focusing on one specific thing for a very long time, which I think is what you need in academia. You need to be like, here's my niche and I'm going to like understand it completely. I'm a bit more like jumping around between stuff, So then, I started thinking about industry, and that was the whole time when the Harvard Business Review article saying data scientist was the sexiest job of the 21st century. So I thought, give that a go. The rest is history, yeah.
So what was your first job out of academia then?
So it was with a sort of startup / scale up in Glasgow. So we came back to Glasgow. Streamba. I actually joined there as head of data science and machine learning, which sounds fancy, but it was just me. So my department was me initially. So it was about 11, 12 guys and girls. And they were all kind of hardcore software engineers. They built this really amazing product, sort of this platform for viewing logistics and operations for oil and gas super majors and companies like that. Anyone with a big logistics footprint would track all your ships and stuff. And they basically had all the data coming in, this really good front end. And the question was, how do we go the next level and start using this data science machine learning stuff to deliver value? And that was my job basically. So I built the first prototypes. We built anomaly detection models, forecasting models and stuff, and stuck it in the app. And then from then, it just kind of, we spent the next couple of years fleshing that out, doing a bit of everything because it was quite a small company. But that was where I kind of got my real taste of what does it mean to work in industry? What does it mean to work in business to business as well? Mm-hmm. Kind of, we were trying really hard to sell. So I was kind of involved in pitching and stuff, which was really a good learning. Mm-hmm. And the big one was being exposed to technology in the real world. So me and these other 11, 12 software engineers, and I'm the kind of nerdy scientist guy. Mm-hmm. And I had to learn very quickly what it means to build an application, what it means to build software. And that was a very different thing from what I'd done before. I'd coded before my PhD, but I was not building, applications.
Yeah. Were you quite different to the software engineers? If you're the only data scientist, I mean, they give you direction, or were you just kind of left free roam to kind of see what you could do?
No, it was free. It was free roam. It was brilliant. Mm-hmm. So Stephen Calder, who still runs the company, they're doing really well now. It's great to see them do so well after me leaving. I try and think there's no correlation. But basically, the story of me getting that role is quite interesting because I knew we wanted to come back home, and I knew I wanted to work in data, and that was pretty much what I had to go on. So I just started emailing people whose websites looked interesting. Yeah. I saw Stevens, and I was like, oh, they've got the Streamba. I've got these nap pods, and they mention a coffee subscription and stuff. And I'm like, oh, this. Yeah. I thought, that's what a startup is. So I emailed them and said, your website looks great. I think I'm smart. Can you use me? I had the interview, which was really just a nice chat where we were just popping ideas. And then it was like, do you want to come and lead how we do data? And it was pretty free range. So yeah, it was a big creative aspect to it, which I really enjoy. And that's where I got the first taste of that. Yeah. I'm not good at, here's the 10 points to follow. I like kind of blank canvas, throw everything at the wall, see what sticks. So that was what it was like. So it was good and interesting translating it to software engineers when you don't have that background.
Did you kind of blow their mind with some of the stuff that you were suggesting and doing with data and kind of even the ideas you're kind of come up with because you've done it in academia and you've...
It was an incredibly talented group of people. Sometimes I was catching up with them. Like they kind of knew what they wanted to do and where they wanted to go. And it was kind of just making that real a bit. I think that was the bit that was quite good was we know there's data, we know you can do machine learning on it, but like what's the specific elements we go after? So we did a lot of good work working with clients, either potential or actual, and sort of understanding what are the real business problems you have in this area and sort of breaking that down with them and then eventually translating that to a data problem. And that was kind of where I think we made good progress. And even then I was a big believer and still am now that if you prioritize doing cool over effective, that's not a good strategy. So it was less the case I was coming in and going, right, we're going to build a massive deep neural network and, do all sorts of crazy stuff. It was more, no, how do we break this down and actually generate something valuable that customers want? And that was a brilliant learning for me. Helped me view it as a customer-centric problem, no matter what domain you work in.
Is that kind of like thinking, what's the ROI going to be on the work we're doing with this project? How's it going to benefit the customers? Exactly. What's the return going to be? And yeah, I've sometimes told that stop doing that. It's maybe not going to make us money. Focus on these things.
Exactly. Now that bit, because that's the sweet spot for me is when you're bringing this cool technology and really innovative ways of thinking, but still driving the impact. I've always been obsessed with impact in the real world, and I think that was great to see. I mean, we could try and build, say, in this logistics space as a first example, we could try and do something with weather data. And instead, why don't we focus on the bits that we're really good at, which is, the really detailed logistics information, and then we can do routing problems, which isn't AlphaGo and now Chat GPT level, but it's important and solves concrete problems for them. And then you start saying, oh, look, this thing we did with data actually cut travel times or it avoided these dangerous weather windows or optimize some metric. I think that's quite addictive once you get into that. Let's kind of, here's the black box with the magic in it. It was more mundane than that, but I think that made it more exciting in a weird way.
Yeah. I mean, so that was your first role. Did you think, this is it, I'm enjoying it, being out working? Did you think about going back to academia after that, or were you kind of set now that you were getting all these new problems to kind of face?
Yeah, I was actually sort of finishing my PhD whilst working with them. Right. It was kind of one toe in each, but I was very wedded to, I'm going to go this way. This is what's right for me, because it was the right balance of, like, I was still reading lots of cool stuff online. I was still tinkering around with code and playing with data. I was still thinking about complex things, which is all the stuff I loved about being in academia. But now I was like, no, I'm in this real world setting. And I think I think it was just a better fit for me personally. I feel like I'm a relatively good communicator, so that's seen as a really big positive in business, right? Whereas in academia it can help, but it's really the core is like how good a researcher are you? Mm-hmm. I feel like I had all these other skills. I think I definitely found my space and I was quite happy.
Good exposure for your first one as well, with the clients and doing pitches and understand different problems.
I always think if you can work in a smaller company for some period of time, you do get like an accelerated amount of exposure to different things.
Much broader rather than kind of putting into a team in a huge company and, turn, not just turning clogs issues, but
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's pros and cons of either, and everybody's different, etc. But I love that stuff. Like, how do we explain this to this potential client? I would love things like that, even though it's not directly take data from this database and write an algorithm.
Yeah, because we had Marta, who's the head of data science at Fourth Point, on the podcast, I think maybe 2 years ago or a year ago. And she was telling about the first time she done a presentation trying to picture what they were going to do within data science. And she had like all these models and data points, all that kind of stuff. And she's like, I lost them in the first 2 minutes. And I understood that actually had to come so much further away from that. And then use analogies and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I love doing that even when I was in the more academic side. So I would write articles for our science magazine at Imperial. It was still for science students, but it was like popular science articles, and I liked that. And then this was a lot of fun. I got a part-time job working for the Discovery Channel as a consultant, science consultant. They had a TV show that, depending where it was shown, I think it had 2 names: Outrageous Acts of Science or You Have Been Warned. And it was basically clips from YouTube of people doing mental stuff, really dangerous stuff, crazy stuff, jumping out of planes. And there was one guy took the magnet out of a microwave, put it on a big pole and ran a current through it, and he was pointing at electronics to make them blow up. So it's really crazy clips, and the idea was, can you explain the science of that in a way that people can explain on camera to people? And I absolutely loved that. That's again the sort of thing that won't get you to be a professor, but I was like, this is so cool. So you'd have to take those complex concepts and try and distill them down to the simplest bits that still capture the message, and that's still something I love doing in my job. Is like, you get a really gnarly, complex bit of technology and you have to abstract that out and explain it. I kind of really like that part of it.
And if you can make them think, feel, doing some storytelling, it gets them really more bought into it rather than just doing facts and figures and things like you say.
Yeah, and as you become more senior, that's absolutely critical, right? It's like you have that becomes your sort of role. So you get buy-in, so you get budget, so you get people.
No, totally. And Aggreko was your next move then after there. How was that for you?
I was good. So that was a much bigger company, so 6,000 people. So Aggreko is the world's leading provider of distributed energy products, so like generators, oil and gas generators. They now do like solar cells and mobile battery packs, but some people in Scotland know them, but more generally, I think they are everywhere. Huge presence all over the world. So if you ever see like a sporting event or a festival or a humanitarian disaster or whatever, they're usually there with these generators for off-the-grid power. So we're kind of still in the logistics space, a lot of the problems, but I got more exposure to wider things, like got more involved with the sales teams to do revenue forecasting and things like that. They got really heavily into predictive maintenance there. They had a really good setup for, like, they have sensors on the generators pulling in data, and then they would run models on it and, anticipate they're going to catch fire and things like that.
Yeah, that's mad that they can do that, eh?
No, it was again for impact, right? It's nothing more impactful than saying we avoided a fire, or we literally told someone to go out and fix that part before it broke, and you saved X amount. It was really powerful, and that was I sort of came in at a sweet spot there where everyone had done a really great job of onboarding to really good technology and of spending a lot of time getting the data in good shape. So we're sort of prime for some data scientists to come in. And they already had data scientists who built some of their first models that were really successful. So no, I really enjoyed my time there. And that was maybe where I moved more into, we'd engage with vendors and things like that. Did a lot of work with Databricks, spoke at their Spark AI Summit and things like that. Spoke a lot with Microsoft because we were on Azure, their cloud platform. So there was kind of, I think Aggreko was where I learned more about that, bringing in third parties to help you achieve things. And where I had an actual team. I had a team that was eventually up to, say, 11 or so. Let's say my team became as big as my previous company was. So
yeah, that's bad, isn't it? Yeah. And is that where you kind of started to go through your own leadership styles and learn about your traits, behaviours, how you're kind of wanting the team to kind of come to the ranks, help them develop them? Was that a challenge, interesting? How did you find it?
Yeah, definitely. So there was a lot of really good stuff done in Aggreko about nurturing future leaders, really good learnings and stuff. And again, the first time I was exposed to that, it was much more of a corporate culture, because in Streamba it was classic punchy startup, whereas still doing lots of hard work, but it was just not the same way of being in, not the same sort of culture. So I think they had lots of really good stuff to leverage, and we did a lot of sessions around team building and communication styles and things. And yeah, I started again, I just started really enjoying that aspect, because it's different from the techie stuff, which I love, but I still found it was something I enjoyed and I thought I was quite good at. Yeah, helping mentor and coach people. I've always loved the idea of teaching. I think that's why I really wanted to become a professor, like the idea of sort of getting knowledge into people's heads. There's an aspect of that in management. And then you kind of get more exposed to the stakeholder management and selling a vision and coming up with strategy. So I was getting more involved with our director of analytics about what's the strategy for data science and machine learning for the company, and how does that link to the wider corporate strategy. But it was the first time where I started realizing that you couldn't be coding forever. Or you could be coding forever, but it probably wasn't likely on the trajectory I wanted to be on. So I had to start rationalizing that in my head, you kind of go through an existential crisis. Who am I if I'm the coder and I'm not coding? And do I really want this? And how do I keep my tech skills sharp, but at the same time I'm in meetings all day, every day? So
is the value thing hard for you? Because when you're coding, you're producing something, you're giving value by doing that. Is it difficult then when you move away from on the tools, as they say, and do more strategy and stuff?
It was hard initially, I think, because especially coming from that very academic background, where I even struggled with that to undergrad to PhD, right? Where undergrad you do your studying, you have an exam, you get your mark, good, bad, average, whatever, but you have your mark and And then in a PhD, it's more like, come back in 3.5 years and write basically a book. And you're like, what? How do I know I'm progressing? What is going on?
Is this okay?
Yeah, no, that's what it's like. That was hard enough. And then when you go into industry, even when you're still doing the coding, it's even different again. But you still had, to your point, the sort of cling on about, I built that thing and it's running every day, and that's sort of my thing.
Yeah,
you definitely had to let go of that a lot more. So I think that was quite a transition for me, probably as well because of my massive ego. You can't point to a thing and go, that's my thing. It becomes more, that's our thing, or that's my team's thing, or that's my colleague's thing. That's where I did start learning that the value you have is different. You become more of a force multiplier. The way I sort of phrase it to my team is like, you're trying to enable the others to do more of what they're good at. So actually your value is less. So Andy did that thing, but it's more the organisation achieved its goals, and that's ultimately what you're really after. So yeah, I think that was where that sort of transition started.
Yeah, you see a lot of software engineers, and I mean people in any role really. You kind of move through the ranks. You go senior, you can go principal, you can go a head of, or you can go a manager. But was there people that kind of coached you along the way? Did they put you on any kind of formal, training to say like, this is a team lead position? Or was it kind of just finding out yourself and kind of finding the right?
No, I had a lot of good stuff at Aggreko. So there was like I can't remember what it was called there, but there was like a program for potential future leaders.
That's good.
So they got everybody together and, we did all these exercises, and I really loved the stuff on communication styles. There was some really good training sessions we did, and it's all stuff everybody can find online and stuff. The sort of the different quadrants of communication styles. There's lots of different versions, right? But they come down to the main sort of things. And you did like one of these questionnaires. It was so funny going through it because there was like a group of analytical. So you think deeply about problems, you take away data, but you hold back and you go away and come up with your answer and you're happy, and then you bring it back. And then there was like talker, gets energy from spitballing and chatting, chat. And that's how you get your energy. And blue sky thinking, doesn't like find detail and stuff. And then there was ones about, relationship focused and avoiding confrontation. And another one about being like totally task focused, like picking off your to-do list gives you the biggest buzz. I obviously assumed I was going to be in the analytic camp. PhD, data science, blah, blah, blah. Obviously I'm in that. No, I was off the charts talker.
Really?
And yeah, absolutely. And everyone in the room was like, obviously.
But you didn't know that yourself.
Exactly. I was like, what? And then when you thought about it and they spoke through like what it means, and I think that was a good awakening for me. And I use that example with my team a lot. And that made me appreciate that, how others perceive you is not the same as how you perceive yourself.
Yeah.
And then they also spoke a lot about, which was really powerful, how people with different styles should communicate to the others.
Mm-hmm.
So I recognised that in my team, I had some of the more analytical people, but I would assume they thought and processed information like me. So I would sort of say, right, let's go on a half an hour call and just brainstorm it. And for them, that would be hell. I want the information. I want you to give me the ask. Tell me what to digest and come up with. I'll go away and I'll come back. So it's been so good for my development. So now there's lots of stuff there. And Elizabeth Hollinger, who I worked for, she was director of analytics. She was a really good coach and mentor as well. So that helped bring me on a lot and made me learn more about that wider piece of influencing a company almost.
You make a really good point on that of people not being able to contribute maybe, on a 10-minute call when they've got a problem's come up and need to get a quick answer to it. And they might assume that person's not contributing, not giving enough effort, when actually, give them a couple of hours, send them information to digest it all and come back. They could actually come back with some great ideas.
And it plays to the diversity point as well. Some people are naturally quieter in things. And a big thing I have to think about quite intentionally is how does someone with my style coach others of a different style? And how do I help them develop and be successful, but they'll do it in a different way from me?
Yeah.
I love just rocking up and sort of being on the cuff and no prep and give my hour-long presentation and stuff, right? I'll do things like that. Because I kind of think that way. Yeah. But that's not, it's made me realise I can't expect that of other people. That's not wrong or right. It's just different. So we try and embed like different ways of communicating. So rather than just saying, especially now in a Zoom call or even in a room, anyone get any ideas? And obviously there's 20 people there and no one wants to raise their hand because they're a bit more quiet. So instead what you do is you think, no, let's do little breakouts and let's go away and think about it and we'll come back after lunch, etc. So there's those little things I think have been quite powerful for me in my development.
Yeah, especially for people that are neurodiverse. I know if it's like autism or ASD, if you're on a call to like talk about a certain subject, and it'd be massively stressful, and then you actually talk something different, they'll be like, oh, I've prepped for this, why are we kind of not going through this? So yeah, it's so difficult, but you're right. So you went from Aggreko then and into your next role where you are now at NatWest Group.
Yep.
And you started as the machine learning engineering lead and now head of ML Ops for a very big company.
60,000 people.
Wow.
It's big. I know it's big. I never knew it was that big, right?
That is huge, yeah. I mean, how's that?
Oh, different beast. I think of my job as I am but one person and I'm trying to sometimes steer an oil tanker, or we're but one team, a few different people trying to steer this oil tanker, but we're not in the bridge.
Yeah,
we're kind of in a little tugboat at the side. We're trying to just nudge this thing in the right direction a lot of the time. So it's a very different challenge. I actually love it. I think on that impact point, there's nothing more impactful than working in an organisation where you have 19 million customers that rely on you for one of the most crucial aspects of anyone's life, which is their money and their core data. Really, it's a big challenge, but it's an enormous sort of privilege. I think so. I think I'm very lucky to be where I am. I really enjoy it, and the team I work with are fantastic. The people I work with more generally across data in the bank are fantastic. We have amazing leaders, and there's an amazing support system in place. So it's I think I've won a watch basically. I've been quite lucky. Made the most of it, but I think it's been great. I came in initially to help just solve the challenge. Really was they were doing. Not help solve basically the challenge of getting things into production, because the data scientists were producing lots of great research and proof of concepts, etc. But the challenge was, how do you make that into products sustainably and repeatably and in a consistent way? And that was a big ask. But we just sort of started doing it with small projects initially and just making sure, here's how you go into production and build that sort of software piece, but that has machine learning in it, which was kind of the little niche I'd carved for myself. And once you do that a few times, you start saying what's the key learnings you can abstract into a more general strategy for that, and then sort of just kept going and going, and then became the ML Ops function now, we call it.
How was it then going from, like when your first company was 11 staff or 10 staff, now you're in the thousands, and obviously you had maybe more free reign. You had, you could maybe pick applications or pick things you wanted to use. Now you're been given, I suppose, a tech stack, tools that are kind of preset, your inheriting legacy, which I'm sure is there with some of the big banks as well. Like, how is that for you?
I like the constraints as a sort of challenge, I think, which I never thought I would say. Because I did love, like you say, previously in my career, blank canvas. And I still like that. I still like a blank page, what can we do? Yeah. But it's like, what can we do under these very real constraints? And some of the constraints are, like you say, technology, big legacy footprint. But I love really good modern technology as well from lots of very talented teams. So what do we do with that? What do we do with the people we've got? And what is our people strategy moving forward? Then what we got is a wider strategy as a business. And then you have to try and make what you're doing fit to all that. So I quite like it. I view it as a sort of challenge. How do you really transform things, but under those constraints? And I've always been a big fan of. I was like this in Aggreko as well. I was a big fan of kind of working in a place where not all the answers have been worked out. I don't want to turn up somewhere and be like, you're fine tuning and optimizing an already kind of performant engine. I feel like if you went to some of the massive tech players in the world, that might be the case. I'm not sure, right? There'll still be amazing things happening, but I remember listening to a podcast and a guy was saying he was paid a crazy amount of money working at Facebook as a senior machine learning engineer, but he hated it because he was like doing these very, very specific tickets. And all he was measured on was how many tickets you get through. Sounds horrible, yeah. I mean, it was a lot of money. It was like $500,000 or something he was paid. But then I think you've flipped that over to somewhere where you've got constraints and you've got challenges, and it's not clear how we do it. But if you start getting it right, the impact is huge. The payoff's massive. So I really like that challenge, I think. Yeah.
No, I think you're totally right. I think there's a really good analogy when looking at organisational behaviour. And it was like a car factory, and the guys or girls were basically, building cars and putting them together. Like 3 people would build the whole car, and then they figured out a way to make it faster production. So just this one person would just put the wheel on every time the car was moving. But then they noticed that people were leaving, or they were like, just really, it dropped completely because you don't want to do the same thing every single day. You want interesting challenges and projects and to make an impact.
No, exactly. And I think we're lucky if we work in technology and in data that a lot of the problems aren't solved. And you're constantly innovating just to stay still. And I think that's a fun place to be. I'm never ever bored.
What's then the difference for me and hopefully all the listeners? ML ops, data science, machine learning. As a recruiter, I obviously understand. But what's the difference between them? And
I love this question. So, highest level, what is the job of a data professional of any flavour? Our job is to take the bits and bytes that are just pulsating through society now and all of the software that we use and turn it into value for our customers, for our stakeholders, for our colleagues. The way you can do that is multiple different routes, right? You can organise and curate that data in ways that make it more understandable and accessible for systems or people. I'd say that's the discipline of data engineering. You can then interpret that data and try and create insights from it. That's probably the domain of data analyst. You can do that same thing, but with more advanced techniques from the world of statistics or computer science. And that's where you get into like artificial intelligence, machine learning algorithms. But they're basically just other ways of taking the data and producing some new data, some new insight from that data. That's the world of the data scientist. You then get into the challenge of, right, okay, I have data, I'm curating it, I'm transforming it, and I'm generating some insight from it using my data engineers, analysts, and scientists. But now what I want to do is start building products that embody those transformation processes and can do it again and again at scale. The difference is really from being someone who looks at a database of, movie preferences and can write a little algorithm to give you some stuff on maybe a dashboard or a little view and put it in PowerPoint. The difference is that, but going to Netflix. And that's an engineering challenge. Because what you're doing is you're saying, how do I take the essence of what I've been doing in the science and analysis piece and productionize it, industrialize it, operationalize it? There's all these I's words in this space. And that's when you start getting into what I would call machine learning engineering or ML engineering. And the idea is you're bringing software engineering discipline to the world of data science and analytics. And that's when you start thinking about platforms, tools, technologies, and other types of process, like building in pipelines, building in software development, version control practices, and things like that. And then to me, ML engineering is like, how do you build those components and build those products? ML ops is then how do you do that again and again and manage the products you build every day, 24/7, 365. And that's ML ops. So that's when you start thinking about how do I monitor these solutions that are often quite complex across the technologies they use, the data they're using, and the algorithms they're using. How do I version control the algorithms and models I'm using? How do I manage those elements, which is different from traditional software? How do I build processes that allowed me to capture the research element of data science, but still make it repeatable enough that it becomes a software problem? And that to me is what ML ops is. So it's kind of they're all elements of this sort of wider family of getting value from data, but they tackle different parts of the problem.
It's mind-blowing, all these different areas and everything that can be done now with data. That was a really good overview of it. Because you see like DevOps, you see DevSecOps. There's so many now where it's like dev and operations and obviously that kind of continuous automation.
Yeah.
Is it really difficult then? So like if you've got these applications that are kind of talking to each other through APIs or various means and using all this data, they're all interlinking. And it's like a big domino that then if someone changes something somewhere, then you see a cascading effect of like what happened there. Is it so important that you know what everyone's doing all the time? And if they're making changes, it's all documented and tracked?
I think that scenario can happen if you've not got a good architecture or good system design principles. So the real way to build resilient systems at scale is through what's called in software separation of concerns. So the idea is that each thing has its task to do, and that's pretty much it. So you don't get what used to be big monolith applications. Although they're kind of making a comeback in some places, which is weird. But kind of rather than having one thing that did everything, and then like you say, if I had to go in and tinker with this bit, since it's all contained in the one application, there could be all sorts of downstream effects. What we've kind of moved towards in software architecture over the past, say, decade or so, really, I think is more what are called microservice architectures, or separating out those different components and making them their own isolated things. So rather than having one app, again, going back to the Netflix example, Netflix is not, 10,000 lines of codes sitting on a server somewhere. It's a series of very different applications doing very specific things.
Right.
The one is taking the information about your account and making sure it's all correct and fetching the right information. One is feeding that information into a machine learning algorithm. Another is making sure that the stuff is rendering at the right latency on your screen, etc. And all of them are connected. And the way they talk to each other is through what's called contracts, roughly. And the idea is that they're very specifically defined interfaces. And the idea in good software design is really you move away from really understanding the details of all the components. You just need to know what the interface is. You just need to know how they talk to each other. And the idea is that as long as that's maintained, you can change what's in this bit. As long as it's talking to the other services the same way, you can separately tinker in here. As long as you maintain that interface with the rest of the world, it's okay.
So quite modular then. So I mean, like
modularity, exactly. That's a better word. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, modularity. Thank you. I should ask you. But if you make things, if you make things more modular, they will naturally be more resilient.
Yeah.
The other thing is as well. I mean, there's tons of different things that people more qualified than me can talk about. But there's like building in redundancy into your systems. So making sure that there are replicas of things and. If one instance of a server goes down, it doesn't trash your whole ecosystem because you've got 1,000 ready to go, or you're load balancing traffic across tens of thousands of copies of your application. Things like that. There's lots of good design principles you can impart that make sure, although ecosystems are complex, one part doesn't cascade and affect through the rest.
Yeah.
Still can happen though. And it can still happen in a variety of different ways, either malicious or just accidental.
Yeah. I can imagine. I mean, how's kind of been adopted machine learning impacted operations and kind of strategy for NatWest Group most recently?
When I joined, there was already a really great data ethos. So they were already using data scientists. So it was a good place to be. So they already had our data lake, we already had good infrastructure for that stuff. When I joined, when my colleague, Greg Cowan, always tells this story. He's our head of data science and data innovation. He always talks about when he joined the bank, no one could use Python, really. It was a nightmare to do anything, even the most basic stuff. So a lot of blood, sweat and tears had already went in. as I say, the piece that I was trying to push and I'm still trying to push is that industrialization and scaling everything up. So we've went on a massive journey over the past 18 months, 2 years, really. We went on a big journey with AWS, Amazon Web Services, where we partnered to build out our ML platform on their cloud using their tools and best practice, etc. And that's been a really big success because it's meant we've seen all these improvements and we've reduced our time to value quite substantially. So we now reckon we can get solutions in place in a matter of months rather than a year, which is just from idea to value, massive jump. We've increased operational efficiency. So rather than it taking weeks to provision the stuff data scientists and engineers need to do their job, it can now take a day or a few hours. So it's like we've seen these huge gains in speed and pace. What we're now kind of getting towards is that with that speed and pace comes more things going into production and then live, which means you need a better operational setup. So it's not just about getting to the nirvana of production and going in live. It's how you look after the system after that, how you maintain it, how do you monitor it, how do you make sure that it's fixed if something goes down, how do you set up your team for that. So we've came leaps and bounds. It's a super exciting time. And all the time this is happening, the people I work with in the wider team, the wider data analytics function are just constantly innovating across all of it. New data technologies coming in, there's new algorithms being explored, there's just tons of new stuff, which means everything I'm talking about has to be adapted and incorporate all that. So
yeah, it must be so difficult to kind of think of all the new tech that's coming in or new tools, and you've got all this going on, but you're like, well, that's really cool.
I think we're all obsessed with Chat GPT just now, so it's kind of
so am I.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I think I was chatting to someone earlier about this actually. I'm a big believer that the important thing is not to get analysis paralysis with all the tools, because there's too many, right? And if you try to like watch a specific niche space and keep up with the tooling, you'll go mad. Yeah. If you try and do that with the entire landscape, you can't, right? It's just not possible. So what I'm a big advocate of is thinking more about the principles and processes that have to be in play. So all the stuff we were saying before, resiliency, redundancy, modularity, separation of concerns, interfaces and contracts, transformation, blah, blah, blah. All of that is really a set of principles and ways of thinking. And the tools are just ways to implement that. And you can swap them out. You're always going to need something that takes data from A, transforms it in some way and sticks it in B. Whether that tool is A, B, C, D, or E, or F is almost a sort of implementation detail. Yeah. It's still something important that you still need to stay ahead of what tech is coming, but I think it's easy to get caught up in the specifics of the tools rather than thinking those general principles. I think that helps you set up so that no matter the tool that comes down the road, you'll be able to swap in and out.
How's that been then for like Chat GPT and the teams obviously wanting to get involved and use it? Have you had to kind of do internal? I'm sure everyone's excited to say, write me some code. And I know, I think the hit rate on it's good, but I know that, there's lots of mistakes and things that are still going to kind of come out on it. Have you had to kind of have chats with the teams and say, look, you can use it, but please don't just be, copying and pasting things in, or?
Yeah, well, I think like a lot of organizations, we're having to take this very carefully, right? You've seen this stuff, probably seen this stuff with Samsung recently.
I don't know
if you saw this. So they did a major sort of IP leak because I can't remember the details of what they were copying in, but anything you could think that was relevant IP for Samsung, they were sticking in Chat GPT. It's terrible. So it's really bad. Yeah, major breach. So right. So I think people recognize that organizations can't just assume that's taken care of. And obviously as a bank, as a regulated financial services organization, we take all of that super strictly. So I don't think anyone is doing anything like that at all. Basically, I'd be very confident in saying that. What we are doing, though, is obviously exploring what does this new technology mean for the organization? Where does it play? And that's a super exciting place to be. The elements of that I'm obviously interested in are what does it mean operationally? Thinking a lot about ML ops, but for these large language models. And there's just lots of unsolved problems. Like how do you track the performance of something that generates text so well? I don't know. What is performance for that? It writes me good, weird poetry, but I don't know. How do I monitor that in a systematic way? I don't know. How do you make sure you're implementing the right guardrails so it doesn't, create reputational risk by saying something bad or leaking data? There's so many challenges. I think that it's exciting to be there. But I think all of this stuff is going to be great for productivity. I use it to code sort of when I'm writing my book and stuff, but I use it more as a sort of someone to bounce ideas off of. There's me anthropomorphizing it, something to bounce my ideas off
not at all.
rather than it giving me the answer, because I see quite a lot of the time it is wrong or it's kind of not quite right.
Yeah.
And you need to tweak it. So I think you still need to know what you're doing, but it's really great for productivity.
It can kickstart things for you, I think, as well, and just give you some ideas of how you maybe structure things.
Yeah, exactly. So you kind of think, I know I need to think about this particular area, but where do I start? And you just say, give me the 5 most important things in this area. And one of them might be wrong or whatever, but it gives you great starting points. And I just think the most powerful thing is that ability to dynamically interact with knowledge. Google, etc. It's very static, the data. And it's like, if this blog I'm reading doesn't exactly capture the sort of weird question I've got in my head, I'm going to have to think a lot harder. Whereas you can just keep asking it.
Yeah, I think that's why Microsoft panicked when it first came out.
Well, this was it. I think the whole AI chatbot wars thing's been amazing to watch. I've never seen these big companies move so fast, right? I wasn't around the .com bubble, so I don't know if it was like that then, but it's just insane to watch. It's like new product all the time.
They're like running at it. I mean, Microsoft Copilot as well. I mean, that looks insane.
I know, and I'm desperate to try it. I'm just not like keep debating. Do I pay for Chat GPT Plus? Or do I pay for Copilot? I don't know.
I know. It is mad. Have you been playing about prompts and stuff as well? And trying to say like you are Dan, the expert in da and see if you get different answers.
So I'm very skeptical. Not skeptical. I don't like the term prompt engineering. Yeah, I feel like that's over-egging it a bit. I think there is an element of shaping of prompts. People keep talking about the next most important programming language is English. I think that's quite a powerful idea. So the key thing for me is trying to get it to answer the types of questions I need as quick as possible. I found that like if I ask it to sort of rewrite stuff in a certain way, it can sometimes malfunction and like. So I said it the other day. Rewrite this as if it was in a software textbook or something. And it started giving me the outline of a software textbook. I was like, no, I want you to write this paragraph like it was in it. And then it just there's these weird bits that can go down and you find it's in this weird space where it doesn't do exactly what you want. But it's such an exciting time to be in tech again. Like I sometimes get a bad reputation on LinkedIn sort of being so contrarian about these large language models because I think they come with a lot of risks. I think there's a lot of challenges. The whole data privacy issue, the whole thing about, are they being fair or biased in the data they're consuming, the language they're using, what's the environmental footprint. There's lots of problems, but I do think fundamentally we are witnessing an absolutely transformational time for technology.
That is totally crazy, isn't it? It's like the automation, all the things that we'll be able to do, and then in 10 years' time, hopefully recruitment will be all right. People still want to talk to me.
I know. This is it. Like, I kind of freaked out for a while. It's like, is this it? Is this artificial general intelligence? Are we witnessing the Terminator? What do you think? I'm always interested in this. What do you think? Do you think in like 50 years everything will be automated and we'll just be kind of sitting on the beach or something?
Depends what we want to happen, isn't it? It's like, I mean, there's going to be a massive shift, which has already happened just now because there's not enough people to fulfill the roles in the UK for IT. I think there's still 55,000 open IT jobs in the UK, which is a lot. Not as much as last year. I mean, last year was kind of on fire. But it's kind of like people retiring early, people that aren't going to retrain, or, we've not got enough people coming through university. I mean, there's still like people, like 650, people studying PE to be a teacher. But then we should actually be looking at, the government should be saying, well, how many PE teachers do we actually need? Should we have this maybe? And obviously you've got choice to do what you want to do, but then it's not going to make sense if we've got all these PE teachers and we've not got, as many software engineers. And even things like driverless cars, like taxis. You'll see like, obviously Elon Musk and the lorries and stuff. And for a long time, I'm sure there'll have to be someone driving those lorries. I mean, imagine there'll be a time that will come where they'll just be, going down the motorway in a lane that's set for them, maybe.
I know. Yeah.
And that's all the lorry drivers,
Yeah.
It's mad to think about. Thankfully, I'm in IT and tech, and and that's the heart of all companies now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so interesting, but it is crazy.
I don't know either. Like, I kind of have no idea. I'm spending a lot of time now trying to work out, what could 10 years in the future look like? I have no idea. Genuinely, I have like no idea.
Yeah.
We could be on Mars, or it could be everything as it is just now. Just we have these weird chatbots we're all talking to. I don't know what it's going to be like.
I've seen the chatbots and things they use on websites that they actually write a delay in to make it feel more human. I thought it was quite funny. Yeah.
Weird.
I thought it's too weird if it just comes back to you straight away.
It's quite interesting that people are baking it in. That's quite good.
Totally know. Going back to then MLOps at NatWest, how you kind of ensure the security and privacy of sensitive data in that environment?
Yeah, so there's entire teams, entire functions dedicated to that basically. So all of the technology we have is compliant with internal and external standards, and we make sure that we conform to that. And there's lots of different mechanisms and processes in place to make sure that we don't accidentally go around those, or that anyone intentionally does. So I think it's super robust, and it's the standard practice in banks and regulated industries to do things that way. And the technology has came a long way to help you do that. There's a lot of really good controls you can put in place across the entire stack, and that's just baked into everything we do. So it's a huge culture about understanding and managing risk, and really respecting the data, I think, is important. It's really respecting that it's an asset for us, but we're almost, I view it as like we're just custodians of the data, but it's really our customers' data. And that's I think that puts a different spin on it. You really respect what you're trying to do with it, and treat it as an important asset that has this very important set of properties. It's real people's lives at the end of the day. Yeah. And back to the impact point, that's why it's so exciting when you work on, say, projects where you're helping to fight financial crime or fraud. That's super exciting, because you see that real impact on people. But on the flip side, it could be you give them insight into the more appropriate product that they need, and that helps them as well. I think it's good working in a culture where you can have that impact, but do it in a quite safe and controlled way. But then when you get new technology like these large language models, how do you adapt all that for that? That's what I think every organisation is going through just now, especially Samsung, given what I just said.
Yeah, I can imagine they are, yeah. What's like something maybe you wouldn't know that's like really interesting, I suppose, that you can tell with customers' data? I mean, I suppose you can predict lots of things based on like buying habits. You could predict, again, like if someone buys like 3 eBay things in 1 minute, they're like, oh, why has it done that? And is that fraud, something happening? What's some interesting stuff?
I think I'll talk about another one in the public domain again. So the wider team who worked on a project called Customer Lifetime Value. That was a big thing, and that's basically using our data to understand our customers and their their product profile through their life, but do it in a way that tries to optimize the benefit for them and obviously the value they get. But obviously that means they stay with us longer and they keep enjoying our product, which is good for the bank as well. But I think that was incredibly powerful as an example, and we put that in the new ML platform we developed. But that was like super complex, the stuff that was done there. Really, really, really complicated stuff. And I think some of the team I work with have just published a paper on the algorithms we used, and it's a really good paper. There was just everything from taking the data from all these disparate sources to build a really composite picture of a customer, and then doing really sophisticated modeling at scale, so massive scale, tons of data. And then at the end, it comes down to this quite beautiful set of outputs that say, we recommend this to X person, we recommend this to X person. It's just, I think that maybe not something you wouldn't know you could do from data, but what I was amazed at was it really took a village to do it. It was like a lot of very talented people working extremely hard. And then it'll be something that is in our applications and helps us talk to customers. And it'll just become part of operations now. It's become part of the process. But it's it's actually is a little bit like magic. And it's just been so powerful watching that and what it can do. So there's kind of this, I just really like that, again, direct impact on the customer piece, which I see less of now directly, because my role is more about enabling our technologists to deliver those solutions. So I'm more thinking about, what does best practice look like for everyone? What platforms and tools should we use? How should we take the platforms and tools we've got and augment them and change them with the people who run and build those platforms? And what does the strategy for operations in this space look like? So I kind of have a different focus, but I'm always amazed at the things you can do with data.
You're very passionate about it. I mean, that's obviously why you're really good at what you do, because, having that kind of passion and interest. written a book as well. It's obviously on Amazon, called Machine Learning Engineering with Python, Manage the Production Lifecycle of Machine Learning Models Using ML Ops. Write a book?
I know. A book, yeah. Big book. So that came about from, I think a publisher reached out to me initially and said, we've seen you've spoken at quite a lot of things and you've written maybe some blogs or whatever. You thought about writing a book. And I was like, yeah, I've got this idea. I can't remember what the idea was. But then I remember they said, oh, you can't do that. Microsoft are doing it with this. All right, okay. And I went away and had a thing. And then a few months later, I came back and had this idea. And it was a good time because it was a couple of years ago. So the whole ML Ops ML engineering thing it already kicked off, but it was now in the stage of, it was really in the consciousness of people working in the area. So it was good. And yeah, I just kind of went and started to write down as much as I possibly could about the stuff I'd learned.
Yeah.
It's basically aimed at giving people in the space the foundation to go and build on it and learn all the tools and tech and stuff in depth. So if you're a data scientist who doesn't know much about software engineering practices, or your software engineer doesn't know much about modeling and machine learning, it's to hit that sweet spot and bridge that gap. So yeah, it was good fun. It's been out for a couple of years. I'm now wrapping up the second edition.
Awesome.
I'll go live a bit later in the year.
Was that a surreal moment when you got your first book delivered?
That's been one of my kind of bucket list items for years. I always wanted to. I know I said I thought about doing everything, but I did always have in the back of my mind, I want to write books of any kind. You can see all the books in the background, right?
Yeah.
There's tons more around there. It was funny because they always talk about there's some stressful events in your life, right? You start a new job, you have a child, and you have the COVID-19 pandemic, and you write a book. All of them happened to me at the one time. So basically, during COVID, I had my son. My wife had my son. So he was a couple of months old then, and then the book stuff had all came through, and I started at NatWest. So I'm like, we're locked in the house. I'm rocking him. I'm typing on my phone bits of the chapter. I was mad. It was so crazy. And then I swore, I was like, right. I promised my wife, I was like, right, I've done the book. It'll be a few years before they need me. No, they came back. Second edition, please. So I've been hitting that hard the past few months, basically. Yeah. But at least now I can go outside because it's not the pandemic. So
I know, totally. Yeah, it's really good to kind of give back your experience as well for kind of people coming up. I mean, you did obviously a lot in academia. You're a STEM ambassador as well. So I mean, you've obviously got that kind of like spark to help people and teach people and kind of mentor them. And our books are kind of step down that path. So that's really good.
I never thought about it that way. That's good. That makes me feel less like a kind of arch capitalist, just trying to make as much money as possible. That's good. I think that is definitely a strand. I think I'm passionate about what I do, and I think I'm very lucky, and I just like sharing that kind of that optimism with others, like you say. So it's good. Although there's probably easier ways to do it than writing a book. Having gone through it, I have to say, it wasn't like
I can't even imagine it.
Because it's a software book as well. It was like I quite like writing. I feel like of course I'll say this, and then I'll try that, and I'll hate that as well. But if you just write a book, write sort of stuff, I think I'd be okay with it. It's because I'm like you have to build all the code examples and really think. Am I explaining all the angles correctly, and am I giving enough information? Because you don't want it to be you're just dumping all your code. You have to like explain all the steps and stuff, and then it's kind of there's a real sort of challenge there. But it's good because it helps me keep my tech skills sharp because I'm playing with the latest tech and I'm sort of making sure I build examples.
It's so hard though for you to, because you know what you know. It's like your perception is like that makes sense, and then you give it to someone who's not got as much experience, and it's like, does it make sense to you? So it's like kind of testing it out, isn't it?
No, that's a good point as well. I think what has been good though is I have pushed myself to like add stuff that I know something about but not an expert in. So it's like, because I feel like I'm quite good at translating concepts and repackaging it, I think like that's the contribution I'll add. So rather than just following the base tutorial, what I'll do is I'll say, oh, here's how you adapt it to make it a bit more of a realistic example. But it's still something new for me sometimes. So in the latest edition, I've got some new technologies that I've not played with too much before. That's helped me keep that sort of fresh perspective, because I'm up at 11 o'clock at night, tearing my hair out going, why is it not installing?
Yeah, why is this not working now?
I get back to the whole where I was a few years ago. But no, it's been good. When I got the first book, there's a funny picture of me in like, I'm not quite in my pajamas, but I'm in classic Zoom wear, right? Really baggy jogger bottom.
Comfies, yeah.
Yeah, comfies, I like it, yeah. Sitting there with my book, absolutely so smiley, so happy.
Yeah.
It's good.
Totally. What do you think about ML ops in the future then? And I suppose, within FS, like there's never an end goal. You kind of said that you have to innovate daily to actually just stay current. What do you think the future is?
Yeah, the big ones I think are kind of already trends and themes there, but they're going to become just really baked into everybody's idea of best practice. So how we do things like monitor for fairness and bias at scale. So how you make sure that the models and the outputs of the models that you're building are fair across many different characteristics. There's a lot of mechanisms we have in place to do that already, but they can be slow and cumbersome, and sometimes, it's sometimes better, obviously, from so many points of view to not go ahead if there's a chance that something like that can be breached. Whereas I think what will be interesting is how we can start solving that problem so we can still move at pace and at scale. I'll be confident we're not going to do something erroneous. And I think that's a challenge for all of financial services and probably any customer-facing organization, is that constant balance between the risks you could introduce and the value you could generate. I always think about that's what ML Ops is about for me, is that balance between the two. So I think fairness and bias, I think things like data ethics more generally, I think I would love to see more professionals in the data space who have like a humanities background and sort of not the typical software engineers and stuff, and people who have, legal backgrounds, arts backgrounds or whatever, but who are focused on that ethics angle and really starting to think what's important for customers from that point. I think that's only going to grow. And then that all relates quite nicely into the whole large language model and wider foundation models piece. So there's technical challenges there about how you build architectures and systems where you don't really own the model. You're going out to another solution, OpenAI or whoever it is who has the model, because they're the only one that's willing to spend 10 million or 100 million training it. And you build systems that do that, but still provide your own guardrails to say, I'm using their model, but you see, if I put something wrong in front of a customer, I can't say, I used their model, it's their fault. I own the responsibility because I'm building the product. So I think we're going to have to build frameworks to deal with that and build the confidence that we have when we completely own the model. How do you do that in a world of these foundation models that live in other organizations? So I'm super interested in that. And then related to that, there'll be the whole challenge of when do you actually build your own models? And I think there's still going to be a massive need for lots of bespoke niche models and applications built. So I don't think it'll be the case that everyone will just plug into GPT model to solve everything. I think you'll still have data scientists cranking away building bespoke things that solve problems in a very rigorous and transparent way. Because that's got a lot of benefits as well. So the challenge over the next few years will be how do you keep that fresh and new and doing the latest stuff, but still bringing all the other stuff and keep it all in a way that's generating value, but in a very controlled way. I think those are the main threads. But I'm just always excited. Although I said earlier about it's not about the tools, I do love reading about the new tools and tech, and I love nothing better than getting a call with someone who's like pitching or showing off or talking about a new really fancy bit of technology. It's just so cool. Just keeps it fresh. I think it's quite interesting and exciting.
It definitely is. That was some really good points. I mean, the ethics one I didn't thought about, because it was all just IT engineers, devs and stuff writing all this. Then that's all from their perception of everything. Whereas you talk about like legal and marketing and procurement and all that stuff, they're all kind of like not getting an input into what's been done.
Exactly. And I think I see that as a real growth area. And I think not just for financial services, I think as a society, without trying to get too meta about it, as we develop more and more powerful AIs, right? We were already talking earlier about how just having Chat GPT has created like existential angst, like what's going to happen in 10 years. As that gets more and more powerful, we're going to have a desire and need to have people who really understand how to reason about these sort of things. And, we're going to ask all these really meta questions, like, is this thing alive? And what does it mean to be human when you've got a phone that's smarter than you?
That'll be crazy.
I think that will require more, of stuff we traditionally say is maybe arts and humanities.
Well, What test is it called? I want to say Truman test.
Turing test.
Is it Turing test? Yeah.
The Turing test is basically you take someone who's a judge, and in Turing's original formulation, it was a person and a computer, and they were in different rooms. But whatever, they're on other ends of a system where the person can't see who it is, and the judge is having a conversation with them, and they can't tell the difference which one's human and which one's not, or you can't tell within a specified period of time which one's the computer. I think that's soft, to be honest. People get caught up in the Turing test, and I'm kind of like, I'm pretty convinced, right? I chat to Chat GPT. It convinces me for a while. I know it's not alive. I don't think it's alive, right? I think you're raising a good point. The good point is what comes next. What are the actual benchmarks and tests we need to develop? What are the sort of questions we want to ask? And then to your point you made earlier about which I think was very powerful, is what do we want to happen with all this? We're going to have to start thinking, what is regulation, blah blah blah, all of that stuff. We need to think of all that holistically, and that is not just a technical question.
Yeah, I mean that's. I think they wrote a letter. I was like thousands of engineers signed a letter to OpenAI to be like, slow down.
Well, it was to the American government, I think.
Was it?
And it apparently included Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, and then he took his name off it. So it was quite interesting. I don't know what that was about, but yeah, it was thousands and thousands of AI researchers, engineers, scientists. There was a really good debate raging on Twitter about signing it or not signing it. I was against signing it, and I've been quite openly contrarian and critical about the hype around these models. But I just didn't see what a 6-month moratorium would gain, and how would you police that and enforce it? I think it's better to say, no, we need to invest in ways of making these things safe, and we need to think about the regulation question and all of these other points I've mentioned, right? It's better to say that's important. Can we call on investment and focus and conversation around that? I don't think stopping it's going to work.
I don't think the government has some of the governments anyway, just people. But even when you've seen like in the US with like Facebook and stuff going on the stand, and then some of the questions it was asking like Mark Zuckerberg and stuff, and you're like, what?
Yeah, one about the Wi-Fi. What was that? Was that TikTok or something? Did you see that one? So when you're on this app, does it connect to the Wi-Fi?
Aye, and I think
so. Yeah, I think it does. Yep.
Yeah, I know. It's so strange, isn't it? We'll see what happens. We'll move on to the personal part then. Is that all right?
Yeah, go for it.
So some personal questions for you then. So what drives you, Andy?
A permanent sense of anxiety. No, I think what drives me, I think trying to create value and impact in the world. And I think as cheesy as it sounds, I do want to leave the world a better place than I found it. I think I'm still trying to work out how you do that. But I think generally that's kind of what drives me.
Awesome. Favourite tech?
It's too hard.
Are you a gadget man? Do you have lots of things in the house, or do you try and?
I'm not actually that much of a gadget man. That's quite interesting about me. I'm a bit of a Luddite with gadgets, actually. I use my phone all the time. Oh, actually, no. Sorry, I've got the answer. My MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
Love my MacBook Pro. My wife got me as a birthday present last year, and I had this really old MacBook before that was just about to die. And I have a big Linux machine at home, so I like my computers, I think, but my laptop is a beast. It's incredible. So yeah. I love that. I just love working at it. I love using it. And ever since I got it, I was like, it's amazing how fast things can run. Whereas using the 8-year-old MacBook wasn't so good. So I love my MacBook.
Yeah, it's amazing as well how RAM used to think like 8 gig, or 16 gig was enough.
Oh man, I know.
And now it's like it's not like things are taking up so much more space.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. But the one interesting kind of challenge with the MacBook has been that it's the Apple Silicon. So this one's the M2 chip,
right? And
it's just so funny how you have to like think about what chip I'm running to install all these software packages now, when I didn't have to do that before. So when I'm coding
away, 32 and 64-bit then? Like, what's that? What does that mean?
It means that Intel-based software that's been designed assuming an Intel chip, because that was everything. If you want to run in your MacBook, a lot of the stuff you need like a layer in between. So So for a lot of the stuff like I'm doing now in the book, where I'm doing the Python development, I normally just fire up some stuff. I had to think about setting up this layer called Rosetta 2, and it basically translates stuff for the hardware. don't know what Apple's Play there was. I would need to look in it a bit. Maybe it's
I think you're right. I think it's like the AMD chips and Intel's.
No, that's it. That's it. So that the Apple ones are AMD, I think.
Aye.
But it's like going to a totally different architecture. I get that it means, maybe not relying on Intel and stuff, but it's an interesting play.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have thought years ago Apple would make their own chips, basically.
Yeah, totally. How do you relax after work?
I don't. I actually don't recently. I've been working on the book every night, so that's how. Otherwise, I love going out on my bike.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not like a brilliant cyclist or anything, but that's good. Decompress. So I'll listen to a podcast, go on my bike for half an hour. I love reading, read everything I can.
Mm-hmm.
Love watching telly with my wife and rolling around with my son.
That's nice.
I know. It's very, very homely, isn't it?
Yeah.
But as I say, I don't actually relax. I just go and work on the book all night.
Well, hopefully we're going to finish soon, yeah. Next question is book recommendations, fiction or non-fiction.
Oh, it's too hard.
Do it.
Do it. Love it. Nothing like pressure. Let me think. I'll just spitball some of my classics. Mm-hmm. Love the Lord of the Rings books. Yep. I think everyone should read them, even if you're not into fantasy. A lot of people hate the books. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. I think they get too much stick. I really loved Catch 22 in school. Incredible book. That started me kind of being obsessed with books. Catch 22. And there's too many other books, I think. Mm-hmm. There's too many good books. All the other books are now screaming in my head, so you didn't mention me.
I thought you were going to pick up your one.
How bad would that be? I recommend Machine Learning Engineering with Python.
Yeah, totally.
Second edition.
Could your parents explain what you do?
No.
What do they think you do?
I think they get that it's technology, they get that it's data,
mm-hmm.
and they get when I kind of explain. So I'll be like, oh, your voice assistant, like Alexa or, Netflix or whatever. And I kind of use those analogies, but I don't think they quite comprehend how that translates to a financial services organization. So I try to give them examples like, catching fraud and stuff, but
mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't think they see how that keeps me busy all the time.
Mm-hmm. I suppose just interest as well, like, your academia and your background that you've got there. Was that your parents, did they go to university and do quite a bit of school or?
No, not at all. So my mum and dad went back to uni.
Mm-hmm.
They'd worked as kind of, I'd say quite working class backgrounds basically, but my mum was a nurse for years and she went back to uni and retrained as a teacher.
Right.
When I was a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
My dad went back and sort of did an MBA and stuff.
Awesome.
But I think we have some other people in the family who went to uni. So my aunt, I think she was the first to go to uni. She was a lawyer, but generally wasn't a kind of heavy academic thing at all. They were just like, as long as you're healthy and happy, who cares? I need to become a theoretical physicist, and they're like, all right, okay. It's just very not what you expected from kind of the east side of Glasgow.
Right? It's so interesting, theoretical physics. I think the Star Trek thing obviously maybe helped spark a lot of curiosity in you. I think they actually had physicists on that show because the stuff that they talk about and things.
That's right. They did. A lot of really good people helped be like science consultants. I think.
Yeah. So it wasn't too far away from actually what could be real.
Some of it is just gobbledygook.
Yeah,
it's good fun, right? It's good fun. Yeah.
Oh, totally. Dinner party guests or personal hero?
Man, this is tough.
Mm-hmm.
One guy I'm really desperate to meet is Roger Penrose.
Mm-hmm. So
Roger Penrose is a British mathematical physicist. He worked with Stephen Hawking a lot. So Stephen Hawking and him proved the Penrose-Hawking theorems for black holes. Sorry, it's a super nerdy answer, but I love his books.
Mm-hmm.
I think whenever he talks, he's brilliant. And he still gives talks on, those transparent slides that you used to write on and have the projector thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember seeing them?
Yep.
We had one in our school. It was like, they bring out as a museum piece. He still gives talks with that. And he does like the most incredible drawings of stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think he would be amazing. I think he'd be brilliant to have. I'd love to meet Johnny Cash. Big Johnny Cash fan.
Uh-huh.
I think he'd be an incredible dinner party guest.
Yeah.
I don't know. The Star Trek thing, and maybe with Patrick Stewart or someone.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm in there. Yeah, totally.
Yep.
Right. Quick fire round is most expensive thing that you own that's not a house or a car.
The MacBook.
MacBook. Favourite film?
Inglourious Bastards.
Favourite dish?
That's not quick fire. I'm going to go for spaghetti carbonara.
Superpower?
Translating complex stuff into simpler stuff.
Last thing you lost?
Oh God, my keys. My purse.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you on Talking with Tech Leaders, Andy. Thanks so much. Well, that was Talking with Tech Leaders with Andy McMahon, Head of ML Ops at NatWest Group. Thanks for listening as always. If you are looking for a new role in tech, please do get in touch with one of the guys at BIT, or if you're looking to hire and scale a team, we'd be more than happy to hear from you. So you can get us on our website, which is www.be-it.co.uk, or you can call us on our main line and one of the guys can get back to you. Thank you.